Welcome back to another episode of MMA Mobsters brought to you by Diamine.com and, of course, CellSaviors.org, both premier clothing company and supplement company for supreme world-class athletes all the way down to the weekend warriors. And, of course, my co-host, the Chauvin one, the Oracle of the Odds, Joshua Chauvin. Joshua, good to see you again.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to take a stab in the dark. I think you made some money last week, right?
I did. I'm glad I can come in here holding my head high. Last week, like I said, we had 10 winning cards in a row to open up 2026, and so it was had my head held a little bit higher this time. Last week was great. I believe we swept the last 6 fights, capped off by a Moicano plus money underdog win. So, yeah, it was a good card all around. Shout out to Darius Flowers, who I did not pick, but I wasn't like I had a huge bet on the other side because the whole thing with Lando Venata hasn't fought for 3 years, but Flowers smashed him. Flowers smashed him the whole first round and finally got the finish in the second round. So now he's got a whole new lease on life in the UFC. He's going to get 3-4 more fights. That's someone we might have to get him on the podcast soon. I know we're both friends with him, so good for you, Darius Flowers.
Yeah, Flowers, an Iowa boy, and yeah, congrats to Darius for that performance and putting away Lando Venata the way that he did with a lot of style. Look, no matter what, Darius Flowers will hurt you if you give him the opportunity.
Yeah,
and Darius made good on that. So yeah. Good job. Congrats last week on making money for all the people that were listening in. So let's go to the news. We'll talk a little bit about that. Pedro Munoz, a guy that, I had called his fights back in the day in LFA. Very talented guy. Has 1 million fights in the UFC. I mean, that boy has put in some serious work. Has asked for, demanding a release from the UFC, correct?
Yeah, and first when I read this, Pat, I was like, oh, okay. And then I started thinking, because I saw it, I'm chronically online, so I have my finger to the pulse of MMA news, for better or worse, and people kept talking about it, and I guess I was seeing it from a sports perspective. Guys ask for releases from NBA teams, NFL teams, MLB teams all the time, because like the whole grass is greener. Oh, I'm getting kind of sick of playing in Cleveland. Maybe I'll go to LA. Maybe it'll be a better fit there. This doesn't happen in the UFC, Pat. And why is that? Because you've already made it to the pinnacle of mixed martial arts. Guys don't ask for releases. Even if they want to go box or something, it's, hey, let's work out something in my contract where I can go do this, but then come back to the UFC. No one asks out of the UFC, and it's presumably because MVP is offering him triple his salary, quadruple his salary to go fight on Netflix. I guess the moral of the story is MVP is becoming a player, and it's not normal at all. I can't think of a single time in the past 7 years when a guy has said, I want out of the UFC. I want to go fight somewhere else. It's a big deal.
Yeah. Well, look, the guy's been in the game a long time, had a lot of fights, and he wants to make some dough. And, it says a lot about what we've been talking about over, the past, I don't know how long, ultimately, that the UFC still ultimately is not paying athletes unless they've reached that upper pinnacle, the very top percentage. They're not making, what would be considered real money in today's world. So by the time a fighter gets done fighting, paying his camp, paying his taxes, all the things that go with that, he doesn't have a whole lot to show for it. And I've experienced that in my life, certainly, not just with the UFC, of course. It was, other organizations. But yeah, good for Pedro for, at least trying to stand up for himself. We shall see if he gets released. So, all right, move on to...
I had another quick question for you, Pat. I wanted to get your take on something. Do you think that, because I know that Jake Paul is the face of MVP, and Jake Paul is not as dumb as he acts. Jake Paul has a good head on him, and all the...
No, the Paul boys have been brilliant, how they've marketed themselves and positioned
and he's got a lot of people. There's a Jake Paul team. Obviously, when you team up with Netflix, they're a powerhouse. Do you think that the people who are in that room, whoever they are looking at this and they're saying Dana White, who has been the big scary guy behind the UFC, he's doing boxing now. So now Hunter's doing it, and there's some growing pains. Now is the time that we attack. You couldn't really mess with the UFC before. Now PFL's basically dead. Bellator is dead. We can challenge the UFC. Do you think they see maybe a weakness here and they're striking?
I don't think that's it. I think it's just a business opportunity. The pie's big enough. If people are gonna watch a show and it's got talented people on it, which they've assembled, there's the opportunity to entertain, and people are going to pay for entertainment. That's just the way it is. So I don't see it necessarily as competition. It doesn't need to be that way. The UFC is obviously so well established in their partnership with Paramount and everything else that they've done. They're sitting just fine. So I just don't see it that way. Jake Paul obviously has assembled a very bright team. I know who many of those people are, and very bright people, very qualified for what they're doing. So, no, good for all of them. They're all making money, and good for them. So, moving on, Daniel Rodriguez, released from a Mexican prison and wants to come back to, fight again. I would too if I just got out of a Mexican prison, because I probably got a lot of practice in the Mexican prison defending myself, but and probably sick of eating cockroaches and rice, to be honest with you. So he wants to eat something real, and the only way you pay for real food is with real money created from real fights in the UFC. So what's your thoughts on, you've done some research on poor Daniel Rodriguez and how he ended up in this prison and all of this. Tell me a little bit about that.
I'm just thinking about the great stories that, I don't know if you'd call them stories, but the inspirational talks that you've given about, hey, when you're sleeping on a dirt floor, you train harder. What about when you're in a Mexican prison? You learn takedown defense real quick when you're when that depends on.
Well, and you also learn in a Mexican prison not to give up your back.
That's where I was going. Yeah. So and this whole story is nuts, and it impacts me a bit, because when did we last see Daniel Rodriguez? He was costing me a ton of money. Kevin Holland was like a minus 600 favorite. This was on the Poirier retirement card in New Orleans in July. I won a big bet taking Max Holloway not only to win, but win by decision. Thank God I won that bet, because D-Rod cost me a ton of money. Kevin Holland fights this week, so we're going to get into this more.
Yeah.
Kevin Holland was just sleepwalking, and Daniel Rodriguez easily won the first 2 rounds, and that was it. Just a few days after scoring a huge upset, he goes to Mexico, does something, and then it's just, Daniel Rodriguez is in the Tijuana prison. What?
So nobody knows what he did?
Nobody knows what he did. Nobody really tried to help him. I mean, this is
okay.
The UFC supposed to, yeah. I don't know.
Okay, so I'm just going to tell this story, and this is the honest to God truth. I was in Mexico doing a film. I was the fight choreographer on a Paul Walker film. God rest his soul. He was a great guy. I, had the opportunity to really get to know him really well down there.
Ballad of Bobby Z, or Legend of Bobby Z, or something?
Yes. So my good friend John Hirschfeld was brought in as the director. He said, get together some of your fighters. We're doing fight scenes in this movie. I want you to bring your guys. So, Rob Lawler, Tim Sylvia, Rory Markham, some of the other guys came. Gan McGee was there. Chuck Liddell was in the movie. And so I was the fight choreographer, and Mike Gunther helped educate me a lot in the movie industry on fight choreography as well. So nonetheless, one of the 15 passenger vans with some of the producers and staff and whatever got pulled over by Mexican police and literally got robbed. They just robbed them of the entire van. Everybody, hand over your money. And so we were down Baja California, Baja, Mexico there, Rosarita, and some of those places down along there is where we spent time and filming in that area. Anyway, we get pulled over or no, we were coming out of a restaurant. We just got done eating in a restaurant in Baja, Mexico. Sam Sheridan, who was a novel writer, Harvard grad, guy that was also in the movie. He was training with us at the time before he was writing one of his books. And anyway, Robbie Lawler, Tim Sylvia, myself, and Sam Sheridan. And we got in the vehicle, and all of a sudden a police officer walked up and started talking to Sam. And Sam spoke Spanish. And I'm trying not to make this too long, but it's a very good story.
No, you're doing good.
So anyway, Sam's speaking Spanish with this Mexican police officer. And Sam says he wants us to follow him to the police station. And all of a sudden, an old guy on a bicycle rides up, an old Mexican guy, and starts talking to the cop. Basically, he was saying, leave the gringos alone. And the cop, shoved him away and goes, beat it, old man. And so anyway, we have to follow the cop to the police station. Now, I had already heard a story of Paul Walker had told me a story of one of his good family friends got basically kidnapped by the police, put in a Mexican jail, and they ransomed that family member and said, keep sending money, and they had to send money over and over and over until they finally got their loved one out of the Mexican jail or prison. So nonetheless, I'm already seeing, okay, we might have a problem here. And I instructed Tim Sylvia and Rob Lawler and Sam Sheridan, and I said this, we're 40 miles from the Mexican-American border right now. I said, if they try to get us inside the police station, if we go in there, we're done. Like, they're going to ransom us. We already knew that. So I said, if they attempt to do that, we have to literally crush all of them and make a run for the border. Like, I'm not even joking. I was not playing around because I knew the situation potentially could get really bad. So anyway, we get to the police station, we get out of the car, they get us out of the car, and they start trying to rifle through our pockets to take our money. And Tim Sylvia, 6'8" Tim Sylvia, is literally slapping their arms away from his coat.
Yep.
Smacking their arms, going, get away from me, and everything else. And the way I remember it is one of them looked at me, and Sam Sheridan was speaking Spanish, going, dude, do you know who these guys are? Like, you've got Ruthless Robbie Lawler, you've got Tim Sylvia, UFC heavyweight champ, and Pat Miletich, welterweight champ. You're literally trying to rob some of the scariest fuckers
Dangerous
on the planet.
man.
So anyway, the police officer looks at me. The guy in charge goes, "Oh, Senor Miletich," and I go, "Yeah," and that's Ruthless Robbie Lawler and Tim Sylvia. And I'm thinking, we're literally about to kill these guys. We're going to have to defend ourselves and at least knock them all out and get in the vehicle and haul ass, right? Well, anyway, they realized who we were finally and let us go. So I understand the Mexican landscape a little bit, and have not been back since filming this movie. I can tell you that. So anyway, that's just one of the stories from the old days. But
and you're not. Yeah, I'll tell a shorter version. It's not as star-studded as yours, but yeah, essentially the same thing. I was a worship pastor at a rock star church, mega church in Riverside, California. And it was a fairly kind of, California, sober, loosey-goosey church. Not a lot of rules like most churches have. So we went on a bachelor party. One of the other pastors got married. So a bunch of church pastors, 8 of us, go down to Ensenada, Mexico. And it was the same thing.
Ensenada, yeah, dangerous, dude.
Yeah, they got pulled. I think we had 2 cars. And one of the cars got pulled over, and it was the same thing. The guy's dad had to wire them, I think, $1,000, and then they were out. And that's just how they do it. I was like, why are we here then? If that's just what you do here, I have never. And some other things happened. I won't get into it this show. Maybe some of my car broke down. I had to pay a bunch of vendors like $200 to literally push my car to the border. Pat, when I got on the other side, I literally kissed the soil. I've never felt more patriotic in my life than I did at 3 a.m. then. And same thing, never went back. So,
all right. So
anyway, you've got Daniel Rodriguez, who I'm surprised that I know when Brittany Griner got put in a Russian prison, it was a big political thing. They didn't really make this political. It was just kind of, okay, you got to do 9 months in a Tijuana prison, and he's out. and he's back. The guy's got teardrop tattoos on his eyes, and so he's an interesting guy. But the UFC will definitely give him a fight, probably part of a pay-per-view main card, because he's got a story, man. This is like a movie. So,
wow, yeah. All right, so do we want to move on to the card for this week, sir?
Yeah, I think, what else did we have? We had, talking about the Mount Rushmore. Your Dan Henderson stories and legends got such a big reaction. Give me another person on your Mount Rushmore and why you respect them so much, and I will do the same. Then we can get into the fights tomorrow.
No, I think Fedor Emelianenko certainly belongs in that. And look, there's a lot of fighters that have earned, that status. But Fedor certainly, going 10 years undefeated against the best heavyweights in the world. And by the time he fought, over here in the States and things like that, he was, past his prime, of course. But Dan Henderson did knock him out, in those later years in Strikeforce. So, but ultimately, Fedor Emelianenko in his prime was absolutely wrecking everyone. He wrecked, everyone at that time. And the first fight that anybody ever saw him outside of Russia was in the Rings organization when he fought Kerry Shaw, who we nicknamed Meat Truck. And Kerry Shaw laughed at how Fedor looked at the weigh-in and goes, "Have you seen this? He looks like a Russian fucking janitor. I'm going to kill this guy." And Fedor comes out and crushes him in like 30 seconds. And poor Kerry Shaw's in the back in the locker room going, "Dude, I have never been hit like that in my life. That was ungodly. I've never experienced anything that terrifying and powerful in my life." So, we knew Fedor was for real right out of the gate. So, who you got?
Can you talk about guys like Fedor or Cormier who are heavyweights with a little bit of a belly, and maybe guys don't take him seriously? Obviously, Roy Nelson had a huge belly, and he knocked a ton of legends out, but Fedor got to the top of the top. Cormier got to the top of the top and never really said goodbye to the belly. Is that more of a physical thing? Because those guys are training 8 hours a day in the gym. Is that what do you say? Because that reminded me of Cormier too. People see that belly, they're like, "Oh, this guy's going to be easy work," and then he just dances on him.
Athleticism is disguised in many looks, man, many bodies, right? So Daniel Cormier, a blue chipper, world-class wrestler, world-class athlete. Fedor Emelianenko looks like a Russian janitor, semi-truck driver, and will absolutely destroy an entire bar full of people. So, terrifying people come in many, many different shapes and sizes. I've seen women that look like they could hardly walk a mile run a 100-mile ultra marathon and smile the whole way doing it.
Yep.
Like literally. So you never know. That's why it's wise not to mess with people, because you never know what you're going to get, and never know, what tiger you're grabbing the tail of. So, all right. So we want to go on to the fight card here. Prado versus Radke. I will say this before we go into this. A lot of these fights, odds-wise, are neck and neck. There's a bunch of them on this card.
Yeah, we've had a few favorites flip to underdog, and there's been quite a bit of movement on this card. And also the big reason for that, Pat, is it's a pay-per-view, so there's more bettors, so there's more money coming in. So, lines are all over the place.
And probably pretty good matchmaking in terms of,
Sure.
putting guys together and gals together that are fairly evenly matched, wouldn't you say?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so Radke, he's 4-2 in the UFC. Prado is 1-4. Prado is not favored in this fight. As at least the last time I saw the odds, he's 1-4 in his last 5 fights. You would think, easy, no problem. His quality of opponents have been actually pretty tough, at least up to par with his record, evenly matched, most of his career, things like that, where I don't see that with Radke. Tell me what you're looking at here.
Well, I think you hit on kind of a theme for this card, Pat, and kind of a theme for MMA lately in general, and I think it's similar to the Flowers fight last week, where it's like, Flowers is the underdog, but why? Lando Venata hasn't fought for 3 years. He didn't look great 3 years ago, and you're telling me he's a minus 250 favorite against Flowers, who has fought some really good guys, Jake Matthews and others. and was competitive. Yeah, he's 0-3 and a loss away from going back to cage
Mostly on the
aggression or
ground, mostly getting
North
caught on the
Iowa
ground.
fights or whatever. But why is he such a big underdog? It's because he's lost all his UFC fights, and it's just kind of a sheep herd mentality. Well, that's what we're getting here with Prado and Radke.
Yeah.
Radke opens up at minus 280, Pat. He's now minus 180. That's a 100-point drop and goes along with what you're saying. This is the best of the best, man. So unless you're the second coming of Jesus Christ, you're going to lose a few times in the UFC. And I think Prado is a very live dog here. And at the price of plus 150, I think that's a great bet. And the way the line's going, he may be more like plus 130, plus 120 by the time the fight starts, because all of the money is coming in on Prado here.
So you're saying you're going to hurry up and get your bet in, or did you already?
That's exactly what I'm saying, Pat. I usually don't bet until day of the fight, but I already went ahead and bet Prado because his odds aren't going to be this good tomorrow.
Yeah. All right. I agree with you. Look. Great minds think alike. If I am going to say that I even remotely have any semblance of a great mind, I'm just trying to hang with you. All right. Moving on to Gastelum and Vincent Luque. Vincent Luque is moving up from welterweight to middleweight in this fight. Because Luque was the 48th ranked welterweight in the world, challenging the number 31 middleweight, the bigger man in the fight. Gastelum, fairly heavily favored, if I remember correctly. Talk to me a little bit about this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, just from your experience, Pat, both as a legendary fighter and coach and mentor to other fighters, when has that ever worked? Well, when a guy makes the choice to move up a weight because he's too freaking good and he's destroying everyone, a.k.a. Alex Pereira, a.k.a. Islam Makhachev, a.k.a. Ilia Topuria, that's something. When a guy can't win fights at 170, so he's like, okay, I guess I'll give 185 or even 205 a shot, that rarely works, and I think what we're seeing from Luque is more desperation than anything. It's not like Gastelum is some big world beater. He had potential to be, but weight's always been an issue. He's been his own biggest enemy on the scale, and there's been questions about his training and cage IQ. Gastelum opened up at minus 240 on Caesar Sportsbook. He's minus 280 now. That's about how I would read this fight. Gastelum should win. He's a bad matchup for Luque. He's going to thump hard. He's going to be hard to take down. All the things that Luque does well, Gastelum should negate. So give me Gastelum maybe 2.5 stars out of 5 confidence.
Yeah, and both guys ironically have 24 fights in the UFC. Luque is 16-8, where Gastelum's 14-10. I think both have fought, obviously very tough people. Gastelum, you could say, has fought a harder road and been in some pretty serious wars. But the knockout ratio, I mean, Gastelum's never been knocked out, where Luque's been knocked out twice. And on the ground, both, have more wins on the ground than they have losses. Interesting matchup, but ultimately, yeah, I have to go with Gastelum in this one as well, just because he's the bigger man. He's higher ranked, even in a weight division above. And yes, he's going to hit harder and be tough to take down for Luque. So I agree with you there, sir. I want to argue with you. I'm trying to find something to argue with you about, and we haven't found that yet. So let's get into the next fight, because maybe we can start some shit with each other.
You know what, Pat? I'm over here starting arguments with myself. So I was just thinking to myself,
okay.
When have we seen Kevin Gastelum lose? Well, Jack Hermanson wrapped him up in a nice little choke about 2 minutes into their fight. And then Sean Brady, same thing. Just as soon as it went to the ground, Sean Brady's got him tied up in a nice little bow tie, and tap, 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 fight's over. So that Luque has always been good with the submissions. He choked out Chiesa in a very slick submission. And so that
He's
gives me a
dangerous
little...
there. He's dangerous there.
And he can strike. I mean, you look at this guy, Luque, he's getting old, but when he was in his prime, man, this was a never fought for a title, but got pretty damn close. But yeah, still give me Gastelum here.
Okay. All right. So moving on to Markel Maderos against Chris Padilla. Both guys undefeated in the UFC. This is a big deal to both of them. I mean, somebody's always got to go, as they say all the time. But both are 5-0 in their last 5 fights as well. And I think the better quality of competition leans towards Padilla in this. And what are the odds saying in regards to that?
Yeah, the odds, Padilla opened up at about minus 190. He's only minus 140 now. So, yeah, the money is coming in on the other side. Both guys are undefeated in the UFC, but Padilla took a ton of losses elsewhere. Padilla's 17-6, has found a nice home in the UFC. I mean, how crazy is that he came in with 6 losses, but is undefeated in the UFC, either 4-0 and 5-0 from what I'm seeing. His last fight against Bone Theme, I had a big bet on Padilla. Bone Theme ripped him up the first round, ripped him up most of the second round, and then just gassed. Now, that was factored in a little bit, but Padilla's not a world beater, and I think that this 4-0, 5-0 streak in the UFC is going to come to an end soon. He's not going to be the next Khabib and win every UFC fight that he has. So Maderos is 11-1, Padilla's 17-6. I get the movement in against Padilla. So yeah, give me his opponent here at the odds of plus 135 for Maderos. I like it. Like I said, Padilla was minus 180. Now he's minus 145. That's another underdog that I like. Probably about a unit size bet. Markel Maderos. I think Padilla's a little bit overhyped.
And honestly, I understand, because of the matchup and the plus money, your propensity to want to bet the other way. I do feel Padilla, because they are fairly evenly matched in this one, I think, that Padilla I lean towards Padilla on the ground a little bit. He does have 5 finishes on the ground, and he's had better quality of opponents. So that's the only reason I would say Padilla. I lean towards Padilla actually winning the fight. So there. But we don't have to argue about that one because I understand your logic of why you would bet on his opponent because of the plus money, right? So I just want to get to a fight where we adamantly think the other guy's going to win and get to that point, because then we can discuss merits, right? That's when we can really go at it.
Yes.
So, all right, moving on to Tatiana Suarez against Lupita Godinez. This is interesting, and the odds, at least when I saw them, didn't seem crazy, because Suarez is 8-1 in the UFC. She's done really, really well, and she's fought good quality opponents, as has Godinez. But dude, she's 8-1 in the UFC, 11-1 overall. She's got 5 submissions, 2 KOs, has only won or lost once, and that was by decision. This girl's actually legit. She's solid, and so I don't know. What are the odds that you're reading, and why does Godinez's odds not? Well, I mean, the odds on this don't make sense to me, I guess.
Pat, nobody knows what to freaking do with this fight. This is one of the few fights that hasn't really seen any line movement. Tatiana Suarez opened up at minus 150. I think she's minus 155 now. So no one has a ton of confidence on either side. Tatiana Suarez couldn't lose until she got her title shot against Wei Li. And she took down Wei Li, kind of laid on top of her in the first round. And then the second round, she's exhausted. The takedowns aren't working, and Wei Li just beat her up for a while until she was finally done. It was a little embarrassing. I mean, really, Tatiana Suarez was favored in that fight. She was like a minus 150, minus 200, I think, favorite. Bettors loved her, and she didn't even look like she belonged. For the first time in her life, she looked bad in the octagon. And so this got to be an interesting household. She's married to Patchy Mix, and he's having all kinds of problems too. So they could use some good news there. Lupi's good, man. She's got better hands than Tatiana. It'll just come down to the wrestling. Can she stop these takedowns? I have no idea what to do with this fight. I think that if Tatiana is still good, and she hasn't fallen off a cliff. Lots of fighters have looked bad against Zhang Weili. If that's the case,
Yeah.
I think she beats Lupi handedly. But there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that maybe we don't know about. It was the same old Tatiana. She wins, but that's a big if.
Losing, in that title fight, in the way she did, and a lot of nerves. She's fighting a very dangerous girl. It's first title fight. Look, George St. Pierre lost his first title opportunity against Matt Hughes, right? He got submitted, and then, look at what he did afterwards. So probably learned a lot from that. The first loss, really ultimately by decision. So I don't know, bro. I think she's probably going to clean the mat with Godinez. I just have a gut feeling. Godinez, while she does have good hands, hasn't knocked anyone out in her career. And so I don't see how Godinez is going to get it done against Suarez. So I'm surprised, actually, that the money hasn't moved heavily towards Tatiana Suarez. So I'm going heavy towards Suarez. I may look like an asshole, tomorrow or whatever, but we'll see.
And I want to ask you a question there, Coach, before we go on to the next fight. How big of a deal is that? I'm sure it's a case-by-case basis, or maybe the better question is, what would you say to Tatiana if she was in your stable of fighters when you may have some problems at home? I'm not talking about domestic things or anything. I'm talking about the fact that the love of your life, your training partner, your soulmate, can't win an MMA fight either. I mean, poor Patchy Mix, he goes to the UFC, loses his first 2 fights badly, they boot him. Then he goes to Rizin, is a huge favorite, loses in Rizin too against some 19-year-old Japanese kid no one's heard of. That's got to wear on you a little bit, especially when your significant other is one of your training partners and corner men. What advice, if any, would you give to someone in that situation? Because the emotional, mental part is a big deal.
I'm sure the police department in that area is aware that if there is a domestic call, to go there with a lot of people. So, just in case. But we'll start with that. But second of all, I have no idea. I'm a big believer in don't shit where you eat, right? So your work and your love life and all that sort of stuff, you need to keep that separate. And that's a mistake that a lot of people make in their life. I'm not doing life coaching. That's not my business because I've certainly made my mistakes in my life, but I would say that, that's probably not the best situation to be in. And if Tatiana Suarez does win a world title and starts making some bank, she's going to go, hey, you need to go get a fucking job here.
Wash the dishes.
Do something, bro. But no, I'm not. Look, all bullshitting and humor aside, I think she's going to win this fight. Win this fight. So, all right.
Thanks.
Move on to Gamrot versus Ribovic. Both guys are, 4-2 in the UFC, 8-4. Gamrot's 8-4. Gamrot has, 10 more fights, 12 more fights than Ribovic, and both guys, impressive records in the KO department. So I don't know, what are the odds at right now between them? Are they pretty close? I think it's certainly not a landslide between these two, right?
Yeah, you hit on this earlier, Pat, and it was a phenomenal point. You know what I'm going to call this card? I'm going to call this card UFC 327 frustratingly good matchmaking is what's going on here.
Yeah.
It's such good matchmaking that it's making my job difficult. I like.
That's what I wanted to ask you about, and I'm glad you brought that up because I actually wanted to ask you, does this, because again, I'm not a gambler, but I look at this and go, this is some interesting stuff for if I have to dig down into the nuts and bolts to lean one way or the other on some of these fights, obviously. I mean, really lean into the nuts and bolts. So,
yeah, and so that's what's going on here. And obviously, I'm kind of fake complaining. I'll gladly accept the challenge and good on. Probably give most of the credit to Mick Maynard and Sean Shelby, and maybe a little bit to Hunter Campbell too. They're doing a good job matchmaking. So we have Gamrot, who was considered a future title contender, one of the few guys to beat Arman Sarukian. So he's got that win has aged very well. But then he goes and loses to guys like Dan Hooker, and that loss has not aged.
But Dan
so
Hooker's
well.
a tough son of a gun.
Tough
Dude.
son of a bitch. But he's also lost like his last 4 fights in a row.
But he's still tougher than shit and dangerous.
I agree,
right?
and he showed that against Gamrot. Pulled off a
you know.
gritty split decision win against Gamrot. So Gamrot's thing is good hands, but he really wants to take you down, and that's really where he gets. He's obviously more comfortable smothering you on the ground, but when he has to rely on his hands, he can. And then you've got Rebovics, who's a little bit younger, a little bit newer to the UFC, and where I think we've seen Gamrot's ceiling, we haven't seen Rebovic's ceiling. But we're going to get a good test here. Gamrot is great in the gatekeeper role. I don't know if he ever fights for a title. Oliveira destroyed him in about 2 minutes. I think that wiped out any title hopes. But he could be a gatekeeper for 155, man.
But Oliveira's destroyed a ton of people.
Everyone in the first round. Gaethje,
So,
Poirier, Michael Chandler.
Yeah, so we can't, count out Gamrot,
That's right.
Right?
You're exactly right. And that's the issue here, Pat, is I don't know who to pick in this fight. I really don't. I'm gonna lean Gamrot.
Some oracle you are.
I think part of being the oracle is knowing when to hold them and when to fold them, Pat Militech. I think that patience is a virtue here. I don't have to bet $1 million on every fight, but
True.
I'm going to lean Gamrot, but I'm nervous about it.
Understandably why. I lean towards Gamrot as well on this one, but man, this is it's an interesting matchup. So good luck with anybody betting on that one. So moving on to Holland and Brown, number 19 versus number 21 in the world. Brown at 14-7 in the UFC, 15-12 for Kevin Holland. I just want to say this. From the minute I met Kevin Holland, I love the guy. I mean, he's got an incredible personality, really good spirit, and tougher than shit. And I love the fact, you can't help but love a guy that talks to people when they fight, in the way that, that's a lot of style, totally relaxed. It doesn't always end up in a win when you're, elsewhere holding the conversation and doing a stand-up comedy show in the middle of a fight. But I love the guy and have always enjoyed his style, his antics, his personality, and his spirit. So both guys have fought very good opponents along the way, obviously. Tell me how this breaks down, because these guys, last I looked, odds-wise, were literally neck and neck.
Probably my favorite Kevin Holland memory is he's fighting Joaquin Buckley. Buckley's first fight in the UFC. Holland's putting it on him pretty bad. And then they were in the Apex during COVID, so you could hear everything. And Holland goes, "You got a big old booger. You want to fix that?" And Buckley fixed it, and Holland goes, "Good man," and knocked him the F out about 2 seconds later. So if you haven't seen that, look it up on YouTube. The guy, he's a prize fighter, man, and you gotta respect that. He's never gonna fight for a title, but he's a top 15 guy. At least he used to be, and he puts on a show. I'm worried about Holland. He's lost, I believe, 4 in a row, has not looked like himself, and the Daniel Rodriguez fight was one of those. He had every technical advantage against D-Rod and just kind of looked like he was sleepwalking in there. So, and then he fights Mike Malott, looks even worse. So, but it's interesting to me, Pat. No, you would think no one wants to bet Kevin Holland because he looks like a ghost of himself, but yet Kevin Holland is moving in the right direction. He opened up a plus 110 on FanDuel. He's minus 110 now. So we've seen a small underdog become a small favorite. This is exactly where you want to pick your spots in MMA. No one wants anything to do with Kevin Holland. All he does is lose. He's washed up. Well, the odds say differently. So Randy Brown's good, man, but Randy Brown has always been more of a wrestler than he is a striker, and Kevin Holland has been more of a striker than he is a wrestler. I think Holland gets it done. I think this is set up to make Holland look good. The UFC wants Kevin Holland to fight for a long time. They make money when he fights. It's just fascinating to me from a numbers perspective that Holland has flipped to favorite. So smart people with a lot of money are saying I believe in you, Holland. You still got it. You can beat Randy Brown. You're not what you used to be, but you can get it done here. So give me Kevin Holland, maybe a unit and a half, minus 110.
Well, good, because I had Holland as well. I
Good.
was leaning towards Holland, and I'm looking Holland 13-2 in the KO category, Brown 8-3, Brown 5-2 in the sub area, and the ratios percentage wise 10-4 in the sub department for Holland. But then you get to the decision win loss. The past 5 fights, Holland is only 2-3, where Brown is 3-2. You would think momentum a little bit, all that sort of stuff. Both having very good quality of opponents. I think Holland a little tougher, of course. But yeah, my gut's telling me Holland. My gut's telling me Holland. So I agree with you on that one. And then to Bellator, we move on to 2 Bellator alum.
Why?
Aaron
Why?
Pico versus Patricio Pitbull, number 81 versus number 25 in the world. Pico, a guy that came straight out of high school. They paid him a ton of money to come into Bellator. It didn't backfire completely on Pico, but he had a tough like introductory road into MMA, coming straight out of high school. All of that stuff. When I saw that all happening, I was like, I don't know if that's the best decision to do as an 18-year-old. It's like when somebody would bring their kid to me and say, or they'd talk to me and go, hey, we're making a decision whether to send our son to the Marines, to college, or to come train with you. And I'd go, send him to college, and then I'd hang up on him. There's decisions in life that you make as an 18-year-old. If you've got options, I don't know if, because Pico was very highly recruited for college for wrestling, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he was a legit blue chipper. So, coming out of college, he probably would have, been in a position to make a lot more money out of the gate. I don't remember what he was paid initially. And I'm rambling somewhat because of that memory of all of that. But both these guys, long history with Bellator, being pitted against each other. Maybe this is the UFC thinning the herd or bringing all the Bellator fans over to watch the fight. I'm not sure, but both guys they're quality athletes. They're very good fighters. Not in the running for a world title or anything like that right now, but both solid, right? So I don't know. Tell me about it.
This is a weird fight, Pat. So the whole thing, and I know that Dana White, maybe this is the absence of Dana White, but Dana White hates Bellator. Back to the Bjorn Rebney days, him and Bjorn Rebney were like discussing taking contracts out on each other's life. Those two guys hated each other. They couldn't be in the same room together. And then Bjorn Rebney, who was always a little bit shady, kind of leaves. His own board voted him out, and then they bring in Scott Coker. Dana White tries to get under Scott Coker's skin. Coker didn't really care. Coker didn't want to play those games, and so he kind of...
No, Coker's an extremely professional guy. I've always liked Scott.
Correct. Correct.
So.
But Dana White has never let his disgust for Bellator be a secret. So why are we doing an homage to Bellator fight? This is
Probably
weird.
to thin the herd. I don't know.
I guess they did never fight in Bellator, even though that was the very real option. So
sure,
maybe it's like two famous college wrestlers who have always been on each other's bracket and never really found each other, but it's happening, I guess. But I hate this fight because Pico can't take a punch. Patricio was always a very good striker, always a well-rounded guy. He's going to be a little smaller than Pico, a little bit older, but he can thump. Pico opens up at minus 340. He's minus 300 now. I'm not. I mean, give me Pico by a hair, but that plus money plus 235 on Pitbull is very tempting because this is a weird fight.
So you're saying at plus 235, you actually like Pitbull to a certain extent here.
Yeah,
you're not picking him. You're not picking him. You're saying Pico's going to win probably.
Yeah, if you're giving me $100 and saying you have to bet it on this fight, I'm probably just going to throw it on the underdog because I think it's a close fight.
Okay. Yeah, and I was looking at it as well going, interesting matchup, and I mean Pitbull definitely has Do you think Pico's going to take him to the ground in this? Do you think he's going to?
That he
Do you
will.
think he's
Yeah,
going to find himself on the ground getting takedowns on a guy that's gotten 12 submission victories? I don't know. Or is he forced to stand up because of his fear of the ground? Is he going to fear the striking of Pitbull more? That's the mindset that I'm looking at. Sorry to go off on a tangent here, but
No,
I'm
I
thinking
don't think
I'm thinking about I'm thinking about the mindset of Pico, where if you go to the ground, you're actually sticking your arms in bear traps potentially, and if you stay on your feet, Pitbull's a better striker. So I'm almost leaning towards Pitbull in this one. Like, I think he might be able to get this done, even though he might not be as physical. He's certainly got the ability to knock Pico out. So I'm leaning a little bit towards Pitbull, bro.
Yeah, no, I don't think you're rambling. I think you're making some very good points. This is a difficult fight, and Pico's been a difficult guy to handicap throughout his career because he's been more of a brawler. I mean, yes, he has these amazing wrestling accolades, but he's a thumper, man. He wants to put you down, unconscious, on the canvas. He's almost kind of more of Bellator's version of Justin Gaethje, where he has all that wrestling, but he really doesn't use it unless it's to stay upright. So
but he's at the same time though he's been KO'd 4 times. Because of that.
That's
right?
what I'm saying. You think he would wrestle more because it seems to be his big weakness is that chin. So I don't know. Maybe it's a coaching issue. The same coaches that thought him going pro at 18 was a good idea, but has a ton of talent. I bet on him a lot in Bellator because what Bellator would do is they would give him guys that were just out of his league. And so he would regularly be like a minus 300, minus 400 favorite. And he would pretty much smash all these guys. I mean, I don't think he should be minus 300 against Pitbull. Pitbull just looked great against
That's what I'm
Dan
saying.
Ige.
That's what I'm seeing.
Looked great against Ige.
Yeah. So that's why I'm saying it, too. So anyway. All right, so let's move on. So Pico's your pick, though.
No, Pat, I'm gonna. Yeah, I'm kind of playing both sides here, which a lot of gambling experts will do. If you give me $100, I have to bet it on this fight. Give me the underdog, especially after you and I talking. That's gonna tentatively be my crazy underdog upset pick.
Well, don't let me be the reason you lose $100.
Oh, I can know. I've lost $100 before. I'll do it again. So yeah, if Pitbull is going, that's gonna be my fun, crazy underdog pick.
All right. All right, moving on to Cub Swanson and Nate Landwehr. Again, another guy, Cub Swanson, who I love the guy. He's had so many wars, been through, a ton of wars. The odds, I'm not sure. I don't remember. Last I looked, I think they were pretty close. But, the quality of opponent's way higher for Cub Swanson overall.
Yeah.
Right?
Pat Militech, I love talking to you. I hate this fucking card. I mean, every single fight is giving me panic attacks. I mean, so Cub, it is his retirement fight.
Refrigerator's empty. Empty, and I have to fucking bet. And you guys do this to me. That's what you're thinking,
is
huh?
Exhausting. I'm getting anxiety, and we're still like 26 hours away from the card.
No, we're gonna bat. We're gonna bat 100% on this shit.
I love the confidence. So, and also, there's no shame to all you gamblers at home going a little bit lighter on a card. It's better,
Sure.
Yeah. So I will still be betting it. I will give you my picks, but this is a tough card. So. Good matchmaking. Usually when guys get to their retirement fights, Pat, it's kind of 1 foot out the door. And they usually lose, and they get their big send-off, and then it's like, well, that's why I'm retiring, because I just got beat up, and you saw what happens. You do have some exceptions to the rule. Obviously, Robbie Lawler wins his retirement fight.
And stays retired intelligently,
which is crazy.
Right?
I thought for sure. I'm sure that MVP called him. I'm
True.
sure Netflix called him, but that is interesting. So, but it's interesting, Pat. Cub Swanson, retirement fight. Nate Landwehr is not retiring anytime soon, as far as we know. Swanson's flipped from underdog to favorite. He opens up at plus 130 on FanDuel. He's minus 110 now. So that's interesting. That means that some smart sports bettors are leaning the Cub Swanson direction. So, I don't know. Knowing Cub as a person, I mean, all these guys are freaking warriors, man. And it's not so much that they're like mentally 1 foot out the door. It's physically. They know that they can't do it anymore. Everyone wants to win their retirement fight. Landwehr is a streaky guy. He's kind of more let himself get beat up for a bit, and then he finds a second wind. So I don't know, man. I guess one thing that I do take into account in this fight is just maybe a year ago, we saw Cub Swanson fight another guy who is notorious for taking a little bit of a beating in the first round, and then he rallies and hurts you. What is the name of that guy? I'm going to tell you in 2 seconds. His name is Billy Q. Billy Quarantillo. You've heard of him, Pat. That's his whole thing. I'm going to let you beat me up in the first round. You're going to get tired, then I'm going to come back and beat you. He did that exact strategy against Cub Swanson. Cub Swanson was there, man. He was there in the first round. It looked like Billy Q was rallying, and then Swanson just thumped him out cold, done. That was Cub's last fight. So I think that we've kind of seen the blueprint. Give me Cub Swanson, minus 110. I don't like betting on guys in their retirement fight, but occasionally there's exceptions to the rule. Get me fired up here, Pat. Are you riding the Cub Swanson retirement train? Just win one more fight, Cub. That's all we need out of you.
I am. I am leaning towards Cub in this one. Just very, very high quality of opponents over his career. He's 15-10 in the UFC. Landwehr's batting 500. He's 5-5. I mean, he hasn't faced the quality of opponents that Cub Swanson has. I have to go with Cub. I have to go with Cub and having a good send off. So, all right, we agree on that one. Moving on to Johnny Walker versus Dominic Reyes. Both these guys coming into the UFC, I mean, both literally looked like the second coming. Like they literally did.
Yes.
And with Johnny Walker, he looked so incredible that everybody was going, dude, this guy is terrifying.
This is the guy to beat John Jones.
Yes. And Dominic Reyes, I mean, for a lot of people, believe that he actually won that fight. I think the scorecards could have easily said that Dominic Reyes won that fight. But when I observe this fight, I observe one gentleman having the button pushed a little bit more than the other one, the button that is right here, in my humble opinion, and the button being pushed a little more easily, I guess, is the way I guess I would look at it at this point. Both have suffered some knockouts, but I don't know. Give me your breakdown.
Well, I think both guys have had that button pushed a lot, Pat. Johnny Walker has had that button pushed his entire career. I don't know if funny is the right word, but there's a crazy video of young Johnny Walker, not even in the UFC, in some Brazil promotion. He got knocked down 4 times in the first round, and he looked like those things outside of a car dealership that are floating around in the wind. And that was young Johnny Walker.
Yeah.
He improved on that, but he's always been a little cage IQ. We're not really sure what's going on there, and he's been a little bit chinny. The Dominic Reyes chinniness happened after the John Jones fight. There needs to be a documentary someday on John Jones ruining fighters' lives. He fought Thiago Santos. Thiago Santos was never the same after he fought John Jones. Because what does he do? He tries to cripple you. I mean, it works, but the guy is not trying to make friends in there. He did it to Daniel Cormier. Daniel Cormier was never the same after fighting John Jones twice.
Good points.
Alexander Gustafsson was never the same after fighting John Jones. So he got John Jones, and then all of a sudden, he gets knocked out somewhat easily by Polish Power when they fight for the title, and then he gets knocked out by Ulberg, who we're talking about here in a minute. So, also, you got Dominic Reyes moving up to light heavy. I think he may have done that a fight or two ago, but Walker's gonna be bigger. once again, this is a very difficult fight. I'm not trying to chicken out, but Reyes opened up at minus 120. He's minus 140. The thought is Reyes should be more conscious, should be more technical, should have the edge on Johnny Walker there. But Johnny Walker will be bigger. Give me Reyes about 1.5, one unit bet. Where are you at?
I mean, the thing with Johnny Walker is you have to survive the insanity, right? The whirlwind, psycho, crazy techniques, just wild.
Which will usually come in the first round and then kind of
Yep. And so I think that Reyes is well aware of that, and I think Reyes will go out and try to be a little bit more reserved, not open himself up, not get into that kind of insane, trading, those types of exchanges where, you're just rolling the dice. And I think Reyes is gonna pull this out. But that and Walker, I think the button's a little bit easier to push. So anyway, all right, we agree on that one. Moving on to Curtis Blades and Josh Hokett. Hokett 3-0 in the LFA and has finished all of his opponents. 5 KOs, 3 submissions. Nobody has made it to the final bell with him. How are you seeing this one?
Oh, finally, Pat, a fight that I'm confident on. This is once again, this is a hard card, buddy. And I think that we embrace that, we admit that, and we figure out how to work it. So I don't know if you've seen this, Pat. I almost threw this out during the news, but we're already kind of getting close to our hour mark. Hokett's driving everyone crazy. He's trying to do a character, and it's definitely going to get him paid more. It's getting him in the headlines. But when Colby Covington and Chael Sonnen did their thing, it was just an exaggerated version of themselves. And people who are smart and have been in the business like you knew he's kind of doing a character, but you kind of didn't know because it was is Colby Covington really hate everyone from Brazil and Mexico and he's kind of leaning into a character. Same with Chael Sonnen, same with Conor McGregor. Hockett is just channeling Macho Man. He's just, hey brother, how we doing? Hey, Curtis Blades, he can't talk, he's got a stutter. What's up with that? It's weird, and it's getting him attention, but not in a good way. The most popular MMA fighter in the world right now is Curtis Blades because Josh Hockett is annoying so many people. But here's the interesting thing, Pat. The line is soaring in the opposite direction. Blades opened up at minus 160. Now, keep in mind, what did I just say? Everyone wants to bet Blades because Hockett is getting on everyone's nerves. Blades opened up at minus 160. He's now minus 130. So it's the same with the Kevin Holland thing. The first instinct is Kevin Holland's washed up. I want to bet against him. The betting lines are saying something different. It's the same thing here. I have to pick Hockett based on the math, and that's why you can't go with the heart. You got to go with the head. Give me Hockett here, plus 105, slight underdog. Blades has shown that even when everything in the world is saying wrestle, he wants to strike, and he gets knocked out every time that he does that. So I think it's going to be more of the same here.
Well, that's very interesting. Blades has never gotten a submission and has never been submitted. He does have pretty good takedown defense at times. He's a good athlete. He's a big heavyweight, tall, rangy, good athlete. Has scored 13 knockouts. Of course, he's been knocked out 5 times. Brother, this is a tough one to pick. I'm going to lean in terms of who is going to get their hand raised. Man. I don't know. Hockett's actually starting to believe his own Macho Man shit here because he's obviously winning. That's the thing. I'm going to lean a little bit towards Blades in this one. All right, so I'll go against your mathematical desires, and I'll say Blades gets the victory in that one. So, all right, we'll recap that one next week. We'll talk about it. But anyway, Paulo Costa moving up from middleweight. He's the 15th ranked middleweight in the world against the number 8 guy, weight division above him. Azamat is a pretty scary character. Undefeated, 16-0, 12 knockouts, and 1 submission, 3 decision wins. But This guy puts people to sleep, bro.
He does.
He's had tougher opponents later on in his career. Early in his career, it was a shit show, in my humble opinion. They were not very difficult matchups at all. On the other hand, Costa has fought the who's who of his weight division. He's a hammer, and he's very difficult, obviously, to finish. The odds are leaning towards not towards Costa, obviously, but where have they leveled out? Have they gone towards Costa at all? What's going on with those?
Yeah, Mirzakhanov is a somewhat average favorite. Opened up at minus 195. He's minus 210 now on FanDuel. I don't think that they'll get much higher because, listen, man, Paulo Costa showed us that he's still alive. He's still there. He's losing to the best of the best, the Israel Adesanyas, the Sean Stricklands. But then he gets Kopylov. Kopylov has looked great. And Paulo Costa won all 3 rounds and looked pretty good doing it. So the thing with Mirzakhanov is you hit it on the head. He's over there in Russia. He's fighting taxi drivers and bouncers and beating all of them. But he's supposed to beat all of them. So we don't really know how good he is when he gets to the UFC. He's beating everyone in the UFC. In fact, he's beating really good guys in the UFC. So next up is Paulo Costa.
And he's wrecking people.
Wrecking them. Yeah. Wrecking them.
Yeah.
And so how good is Mirzakhanov? It's kind of the two immovable forces. We have, is Mirzakhanov really good, or does Paulo Costa still have something left in the tank? I think this is a fascinating fight. Again, I don't think there's a clear bet here, but I think from a fan perspective, it's a great fight. Give me Mirzakhanov. Paulo Costa's not easy to finish, though, but
what's the odds? What's the odds on a Mirzakhanov knockout?
Well,
knocking out Costa, because Costa's only been finished once.
Another thing I think is interesting here, Pat, is for 2 killers, fight goes the distance is minus 105. So you can double your money either way. It's pretty much a 50-50 split. Fight goes to decision or fight doesn't. So if Mirzakhanov is minus 210 and fight ends inside the distance is like plus 110, then that means Mirzakhanov to win inside the distance is going to be probably like plus 200, something like that.
Okay.
So yeah, that's your thing. So
that's my lesson for the day.
Yeah, there you go. Is that what you think happens? You think he finishes, Paulo?
It's not that I'm saying that. I'm just saying, Costa's only been finished one time by TKO KO. So
by Izzy, yeah.
Yep. So that's it. But Mirzakhanov, in my opinion, is going to win the fight. That's a big bite for Costa going up in weight division against a guy like this that's undefeated at the 205-pound weight division. So, all right, going on to the main event. For anybody that picks this correctly, between Olberg and Prochaska, anybody gets it right on the winner, the round it ends, and the way that it ends gets free Cell Saviors and free Diamine clothing. Diamine Inc., Diamine.com, and cellsaviors.org. The best supplements in the world, personally.
Yes, sir.
40 years of research has gone into this, and then, of course, the clothing line. So we want to give you free stuff. So pick, please, by all means, pick who you think is going to win. So Prochaska and Olberg, interesting matchup here. I think it's going to be a very exciting fight. What are your thoughts on this? Break it down and give me the mathematical equations as well.
Well, on a card of ridiculously close fights, let's end with the closest of them all. And thank you, Pat, for letting me be me and be honest and say this is a tough fucking card, man. So I'm going to give you my picks, but I'm not going to piss on your leg and tell you that it's raining and tell you that I'm crazy confident when I'm not. But I'll do my best. So let me just say, from a fan perspective, this is an incredible card. There's going to be some. I'm pretty confident saying there are going to be some great wars on this card, and you're going to get off your sofa and off your feet a few times, and it's going to be a fun card. I just don't know if it's the best fiscally money-making card ever made in history. So, Olberg, Prochaska. The lines are all over the place here, Pat Militech. So, Olberg opened up as a small underdog on FanDuel, plus 114. He's minus 106. Now, let's go look at Caesars. That tells a story, too. Prochaska opened up at minus 140. He's now down to minus 120. So the odds are slightly all moving against Prochaska to Olberg, but it's nothing crazy. But it's, 20 points here, 30 points there. What's Prochaska's thing? Well, his thing is he only loses to Alex Pereira. But he will almost lose to every other fighter that he faces because he possesses a unhuman, godlike ability to get punched in the head a bunch of times and then just wake up and be like, oh, we're fighting now? And just rain down the fury of God on you. He did it to Khalil Roundtree, got beat up the first 2.5 rounds, then suddenly he just becomes like a Super Saiyan Mortal Kombat. The power booster gets full. The guy's unhuman, and that's why he has such a big fan following. Olberg can crack, bro. And I'm just not sure if he can take those shots from Olberg, because Olberg is going to touch him. Everyone touches him. I don't know. That superhuman chin's not going to last forever.
Yeah. No, I get it. I'm sorry to interrupt you, because
I was almost done. You're good.
Olberg came into the UFC at 4-0. Hardly any fights. He's 13-1, 9-1 in the UFC. Has done very, very well for himself. Has fought competition far above his experience level. If you look at his record and his process, he fought people way above his level, way more experience, way like people you would never management-wise put an athlete with, and he has done really, really well. So I'm leaning towards Olberg because of that. Prochaska is a hammer. He's amazingly tough, as you talked about. But I don't know, man. There's something about Olberg and the ability to go in and have that much confidence. As a 4-0 guy, I can tell you going into the UFC at 4-0 and doing what he's done against the experienced opponents that he's done it with is pretty fucking impressive. Pardon my French.
Very impressive.
Yeah.
Very impressive. And I would add on to that, Pat. There's been a lot of fighters who were 4-0, and there's been a lot of fighters who were part of big camps. That's another thing that helped Olberg, is he's a mainstay part of the Adesanya, Dan Hooker, Volkanovski camp, and so he's surrounded by greatness, kind of like what he built in Bettendorf, Iowa. But he's still 4-0. And Pat, how many guys have we seen come out of these camps, be the next big thing, and it's sink or swim? Most of them sink. I don't care how good you are.
Yeah.
Most of them sink. Olberg has been the exception. They threw him in the absolute fire, and guess what? He didn't burn. He didn't die. He just got stronger. So I think he's the next champion, man, and it's going to be interesting to watch. But I love Prochaska. He can't do this legendary thing forever, and Pereira kind of showed that. Pereira, especially the second time out, beat him easily because he's going to leave that chin up there, and when a guy as strong as Pereira finds it, you're going to go out.
Yeah.
I think the same thing happens tomorrow night. Give me Olberg second round KO.
Nice. All right. Impressive. Carlos Olberg. Olberg, round 4, KO. All right, so we'll compare notes next week. We agreed most of this card, and we'll send a Christmas card this year to Mick Maynard and Joe Silva, letting them know they're assholes for this card. But great matchmaking. So hats off to both those guys. And for anybody that wants to, again, pick the winner of the main event, the way it ends and what round, if you get it right, we're going to send you free Dimene clothing and Cell Saviors products. We want to send you free stuff, please. So anyway, all right. For everybody out there joining us, thank you. And for my co-host, Joshua Chauvin, the Chauvin one, the Oracle of Odds. Good luck to everybody out there this weekend if you're betting, and enjoy the show. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys. See you next week.
Hey. Yeah. Yeah. Hey. Giving it all. Hey, yeah. I'm giving it all I could give. Run up and taking my pick, then bringing it back to the crib. Hey, yeah. You know how I go. We finding the gold, the deeper we dig. So we just keep digging till we finally get it. Like fuck it, I'll sleep when I'm dead. Yeah, I gave you my word, don't break it for knowing. You know I'ma keep what I said. Ready for war, I've been deep in the trance. Been jumping since I had them streaks in the bed. Ice in my body, I'm cold under pressure. Recovered like I had no heat in the vents. Shooting, I don't ever conscious, too much to accomplish. You know I can't leave it to chance. Yeah, throw it in the bag. Throw some dots, I'm Jackson Dart. I'm out of pocket playing tag. Catch me if you can, empty out the mag. Took the lead, I run the track, and I'm never looking back. Going for the moment, always rolling with the punches. Find a way to see through the ceiling, put above us. Smoke is in the air, keep it heavy in abundance. When the dust settles, let's see who remains.